association between precocious puberty and breast cancer, let's look at what triggers breast cancer. Breast cancer, the risk of breast cancer is increased with hormone fluctuation during the menstruation cycles. Now, how does this relate to puberty, or even precocious puberty? When one enters puberty, or when females enter puberty, the menstruation cycle begins, and they start menstruating on a cyclical basis. However, when one has precocious puberty, that leaves potential for more menstruation cycles within that individual's lifetime. So, with more menstruation cycles leads to a greater window and ultimately a bigger risk for having breast cancer. In a recent study done, looking at children that had precocious puberty and were experiencing menstruation before the age of 12, they saw the risk of breast cancer, that the rate of breast cancer increased by 50%. And for each year that menstruation was delayed, it was declined by 5 to 20%. So what does it say? It says that the earlier you experience menstruation, the higher your risk for breast cancer, and the later you experience menstruation, the lower your risk for breast cancer, and the smaller the window of vulnerability. Now, we've pretty much touched on all the risk factors and comorbidities associated with precocious puberty within our presentation. So let's look at some future suggestions that we have for our project. What I found to be really interesting was that there was a very limited number of studies out there associating directly the link between bodegas in the South Bronx and the community within South Bronx. I felt our research presentation reasonably strong evidence suggesting that there is indeed a link between the BPA correlation as well as the prevalence of bodegas as well as the presence of BPA within the individuals within the South Bronx that live so close to those bodegas. So in the future, I would like to find a study where they are actually focused on that specific community and a specific area.
Another measure that can be taken is community initiatives to provide healthier eating in households, like home-cooked meals and shopping at produce stores as opposed to bodegas and other unhealthy food sources. Obesity is a huge problem, but I think more effort needs to be done to curb it. And then in terms of psychological factors, better information about the long-term physical effects of child abuse. Child abuse is mostly associated with short-term physical abuse and long-term abuse to your psyche, but little information is out there about the potential risks for things like cancer and diabetes. And I feel like more information would go a long ways as to curb this problem. And that concludes our presentation. I'd like to acknowledge the Hispanic Center of Excellence, our leader Hope Spano for all she's done, and of course Maria Deno for helping us throughout this process.
And our research mentor as well, Deanna Costo, who helped us so much with our presentation, as well as my clinical mentor, Dr. Danila Lebanon, working over at Jacobi Medical Center.
And my clinical mentor, Dr. Kirsten Roberts, over at Jacobi.
As well as the librarians, Rashidin Habusha and Rachel Schwartz.
So we have, thank you, that was excellent. We have time for one question, maybe.
Is there more than one type of precocious puberty?
Good question. Actually, there's two. So what we're talking about is central precocious puberty, which deals with problems in the hypothalamus or pituitary gland. However, there's also peripheral precocious puberty. It's a lot more rare, and that deals with sex steroids produced by the gonads automatically.
We have time for another quick question. Anybody?
Does BPA and sexual abuse have the same effect on males?
Our study focused on females. So